and also be clarification further.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Wednesday, March 24th Board of Education work session.
Hold on 1 second, it's just starting.
Oh, great.
You're good.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our March 24th Board of Education meeting and work session. At this time, I'd like to ask everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Dr. Bloom?
Mr. Toto, I'd like to take a roll call.
Okay.
Mr. Toto.
Here.
Ms. Hoffman.
Here.
Mr. Leader.
Here.
Mr. Curcio.
Here.
Ms. Hanson.
Here.
Dr. Bloom is here. Ms. Gallagher.
Here.
And Ms. Hennessy. Mr. Toto, would you like me to begin with the superintendent's report, or will you?
No, before you start with that, Dr. Bloom, it's just important that we acknowledge the terrible tragedies in Colorado this week and in Atlanta last week. And there's no place for this type of violence in our world. And as a school district family, we mourn with all those directly and indirectly impacted. So I'd like to ask the board and any of our community members listening to please join us in a moment of silence to honor those whose lives were lost. Thank you. Dr. Bloom?
Thank you, Mr. Toto. And I do want to mention, we sent out a letter yesterday. There are resources available on our website for any parents that need resources to have those, have discussions with their kids regarding the incidents that have occurred. And our thoughts and prayers as an administration are also with the families impacted. Tonight, we have our third budget work session. Since our last meeting, I'm happy to report that federal stimulus funding was approved, and we now wait on New York State to determine how those funds will be allocated to the schools as part of our state aid packages. Our advocacy team has been meeting with our local officials to make sure that they understand the unique challenges that we have in Franklin Square and that we get our fair share of the funding, and most importantly, that it supplements and does not supplant current funding. We must remember that the stimulus funding is like a grant and we cannot count on it in the years to come. There are a number of items that we have advocated for and against that have been well received by all of our elected officials. While this is good news, we must continue to stress that there are costs associated with the pandemic that will not be going away next year, and new costs that will need to be allocated to eventually get us back to our new normal. Ms. Hennessy will provide some details this evening, and as we begin to get a better idea of the funding from Albany, we will share more information with you. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Hennessy.
Thank you, Dr. Bloom. Tonight, we will be sharing the third version of the budget, or the third budget workshop presentation. At this point in the budget process, as Dr. Bloom stated, there's a lot of information still to be gathered from the state. Therefore, there haven't been a tremendous amount of changes to our budget proposal as we await that information. The third version, it totals at $41,088,842, which represents just over a $925,000 budget-to-budget increase over last year's budget, or a 2.3% budget-to-budget increase. Specifically, this year we're facing a certain set of challenges, including what Dr. Bloom just spoke about regarding state aid. It's a good problem potentially to have this year, that there could be additional funding coming. However, we have to be very cautious about what manner that funding is coming in. If it is likely to be a one-time infusion of funds, then we need to be extremely thoughtful and really consider our multi-year financial planning so that we use those funds in a way that does not create a funding cliff, And by that, I mean, we want to use them in a way that is a one-time expenditure, not necessarily something that will be a recurring cost that we carry year after year. Also, Governor Cuomo had proposed collapsing aid categories. The district receives state aid in a number of categories, some of which are what are called expense-based aids, based on the amount of money that is spent on certain items, such as transportation, special education services, BOE services. One of Governor Cuomo's proposals was to collapse all of those areas into one. Very, very detrimental to our budget planning process, as we won't know how he's arriving at his total, and it takes away our ability to project and to budget an accurate amount, because so often we find that the amount projected by the state is not necessarily accurate in those categories. Also, the shifting of funds to the federal government was something that Governor Cuomo had proposed. It seems like that will be going away, so I won't get us lost in the weeds, but should it not, it could potentially be very dangerous for us. Shifting the funds from a state source to a federal source almost likely guarantees that that funding will have a cliff and it will not be sustainable year after year. Another challenge is that we are incurring increasing costs associated with homelessness, and also the increasing costs we've discussed related to COVID, from everything down to the cleaning supplies, the additional cleaning supplies we're using, right on up to the staffing changes that had to be made in order to get our students back in school full time. Items under consideration should we see an infusion of state aid, and again, assuming it'll likely be a one-time payment rather than something that is recurring year after year. We would love to have a math lab position. This would be similar to our guided reading positions. It would provide differentiated and intensive support in the area of mathematics for all of our students. This has been on our wish list for a number of years, and we are hoping that if we receive additional funding, specifically what they're calling learning loss funding, which should be dedicated to helping our children get back up to speed for any loss that was incurred during the COVID closure. That's something we'd really like to consider as a great use of those funds. Additional tech support is most definitely needed. We have a wonderful tech department who has performed something close to miracle this year, and what they've really been able to handle and absorb. As you can imagine, the usage and the expansive nature of what technology was used this year has just absolutely grown tremendously. And our tech support team has really done a wonderful job of doing their best to absorb that. However, it would be great if we can get them some additional help. Professional development would be a wonderful way to utilize funds in a manner that could work out very well with these funds if they come in a one-time infusion, as well as we're considering the need to buy additional materials due to a curriculum audit we've been performing. We started a curriculum audit last year. It is being wrapped up this year. It does take 2 years. It's a 2-year process. And through the results of that audit, we might find texts or textbooks that need to be updated to better align to the standards, or need to bring in additional literature as well. I also just wanted to take some time tonight to give an update on our facilities. I wanted to speak a little bit about what's going on from a facility standpoint through the general fund budget, and also what we've done and what we plan to do through our capital reserve projects. We have, it's really no secret, our buildings are getting quite old. Our custodians have been recognized by our architects of doing a really great job keeping our systems and our infrastructure well maintained and running very well. However, we can't ignore the fact that our buildings are aging, and in order to budget with fidelity and practice multi-year financial planning, we really have to have these things on our radar so that we don't have an issue in any single year that can cause a tax spike. We are seeing some issues that we've already addressed this year. You may have noticed the article, we were on the front page of Newsday. They were highlighting the work that we did regarding our univents. Univents are systems that bring in fresh air, ventilation systems in every classroom. We did have a licensed architect and engineer examine every single univent in the district this summer, help make sure that they were all working and they were working to their fullest capacity. We have repaired any issues over the summer. We've also upgraded our filtering system to the highest possible level that we can use with our univents. So these are all items that we've addressed this year. And while all of our univents are functioning well, we can't ignore the fact that many of them are original to our buildings. So we need to keep on our radar, especially with ventilation being so very important in times like this, that we need to have a proper plan in place. The Board of Education has already had the foresight to plan and to commission a study of the Univent system and to determine what the cost would be, or to replace or repair should it be needed. So thanks to their thoughtful action, we will have studies on hand should we have an issue, which will help us address it that much quicker. We also had issues with our steam traps, which is part of our heating system, also original to the building, that we've been able to get resolved. However, again, due to the fact that they're original, we foresee additional issues down the road. We've repaired some of our boilers, and we've also been adding privacy paneling to our fences. You may have noticed that going up at John Street School today, and there will be another area going up that was identified as a need in the district. This is being added to the fences in areas where play areas border a property that is high traffic and not our property. So John Street, you'll see that that went up at the playground, and we'll be adding that as well at Washington Street to a certain part of the fence. We need to properly plan for issues that might arise in the future. As I said, a few of these issues that come to mind include the flooring. Our custodians have replaced hundreds of tiles every year as they start to come loose, again, original to the building. And we're at the point now where we really need to consider if it's a better solution to replace the flooring. The lighting as well, original to the building. It's becoming very difficult to source replacement bulbs and the covers for the bulbs. And also our staff bathrooms. I'm going to speak to you in just a minute about what we've done with our student bathrooms, but our staff bathrooms are also in need of attention from an infrastructure point of view. Now, the 2016 capital reserve was our first capital reserve. The items with the green check are what we've already performed. We replaced partial roof replacements at John Street and Polk Street. We addressed the foundation and flooring issues at the Washington Street School. District-wide, we've repaired lintels, cement, and masonry work. Polk Street School parking lot was addressed, as well as the air conditioning in the gym and cafeteria at both John Street and Polk Street School. 2 summers ago, we completely renovated about 50% of our student bathrooms in what we called phase 1 of the bathroom project. Phase 2 was set to be performed last summer. However, it was pushed off due to COVID, and that will be happening this summer. And then also pushed off due to COVID was the next round of projects. Considerations for the next round include Washington Street School gym air conditioning, the renovation of the John Street School outdoor area, which would encompass moving the playground to a location closer to the building. It would address the need for a larger bus lot, and we've completely outgrown our bus lot, as well as address the sinkhole issue in the John Street School field, which will require extensive excavation in order to address. And then lastly, we had spoken to the community about the idea of giving our libraries a little bit of a makeover, keeping the paper books that we all have grown so much to love, but also bringing us a little bit more up to modern times, making our libraries more maker spaces, hands-on project-based learning areas for our students as well. Now, last year, we did ask the community to approve an additional capital reserve. And the reason we did this is because each capital reserve, when it is approved or authorized by the community, is only for a certain set of projects. And any project that's not on that list cannot be addressed through that capital reserve. Last year, we were due for our 5-year building condition survey, which is a New York State mandate in which licensed architectural firm will come in and they look at everything top to bottom in your buildings. They investigate all of your systems and evaluate them and produce a report for you of what your needs are, what your attention should be focused on over the next 5 years, as well as anticipated costs. We did see over $15 million in needs identified in the report, and as such, we asked the community to authorize an additional capital reserve so that we can begin, if possible, to save up to address those issues. However, due to the nature of last year's uncertainty and COVID-related expenses, we have not been able to place any funds in the reserve at this time. Thank you so much for your time, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Hennessy.
With that, Mr. Toto, would you like me to continue with the agenda items?
Yes, please, Dr. Bloom.
Okay. Board approval is requested for the following staff to work the virtual ENL after school homework program from April 6th through June 17th, Monday through Thursday, 3:30 to 5:30.
Move it.
Second.
Move it Hoffman, second Leader. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Board approval is requested of the revised district-wide safety plan for 2021.
Move it.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And board approval is requested of the memorandums of agreement between the Franklin Square School District and those listed.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Those are all of the items, Mr. Tuttle.
All right, I'm just looking at my calendar. I'd like to invite everyone to our next Board of Education meeting, which is on April 21st, 2021, which will be our adoption of the budget. I'd like to take this moment to wish everyone a very happy Easter, a very happy Passover. Enjoy the time off with the children, and please make sure you follow all safety protocols if anyone is going away for this spring break. And I'll take a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, be safe, everyone.
You too.
Good night.
Thanks. Be well, everybody.